Hello everyone, my name is Kaylin Semino, and today I'll be presenting the key findings from my literature review on protein timing and muscle hypertrophy. So this topic plays a significant role in the field of strength training and conditioning, especially for athletes and individuals looking to optimize muscle growth. This is important for me as a personal trainer to continue to study a little bit further, just because the common goal for my clients is muscle hypertrophy. And it would also be a great deal to study a little bit more to implicate into my future athletes as an athletic trainer to help them prevent injuries with muscle growth and just to make sure that they're well-rounded from their total body. So I found this interesting and I cannot wait to dive into more about protein timing and muscle hypertrophy. So let's go ahead and get started with the introduction. And this is basically going to talk about why protein timing matters. So protein intake has long been recognized, as an essential for muscle repair and hypertrophy. However, recent research has questioned not only how much protein we need, but when we should consume it. And when we consume it, comes into a play for optimal results. So this definitely has sparked an ongoing discussion in sports nutrition circles with implications for both training performance and for recovery. So as you can see on the image, there's a plate with a clock on it. And so it's basically going to talk about, timing with eating as well as after and or before a workout. So let's go ahead and dive into that. For the next part of this presentation, I'm going to dive in a little bit more with the common themes in the research. And so from my review, several common themes emerged, but the four that basically stood out to me the most, which was number one, the anabolic window. So that's going to go ahead and be traditional views, and that's emphasizing, a 30 to 60 minute post-exercise window where protein intake is critical. And that plays into effect with post-workout, right? That people saying like as soon as you get out of the workout or you end your workout, you need to do, or the amount of protein that you need to take needs to be right after 30 to 60 minute window. That is it. And that there's a lot of research, or not a lot, but there's some research that kind of favors that theme, The second theme that's most found is daily intake versus timing. So here, some of the studies, argue that total daily protein intake is more important than precise timing. So the total amount of protein that you intake throughout the day, when the day ends, is more important than that 30 to 60 minute, post-exercise window. That's what this is kind of favoring. Then we have the theme of even distribution. I found this one to be the most common one, and it's basically suggesting that evenly distributing protein throughout the day may support better hypertrophic outcomes. And so that's eating those 3 meals a day, 3 meals a day, making sure that all types of protein, that there's a certain amount of protein that is consumed throughout those 3 meals a day, total adding up, that is going to be the greatest thing for muscle hypertrophy. And then we have the type of protein. So common protein for, fast digesting proteins, which is like whey protein, was found to be the most popular one. It's often favored post-workout due to the high leucine content and rapid absorption that the muscle has to whey protein, right? So moving on to the next part, we have debates and research gaps. So while there's still growing evidence that daily intake is key, there's still debate over whether timing provides additional benefits for advanced athletes or not, right? So some studies did show significant difference in hypertrophy when timing is manipulated, and that's if total protein is adequate. However, methodological limitations such as small sample sizes and inconsistent training protocols did make it difficult to draw firm conclusions. So there was very limited amount of athletes who they could properly say had consistent training protocols. We cannot control the athlete. The researchers cannot control the athlete. They may be going all out or trying or saying that they are, but they know their body at the end of the day. We don't. So we don't know the consistency of that workout. So that's why there's certain gaps in the research. Another limitation that I found in the research was on female athletes. So there's not really a lot on female athletes, and I think long-term adaptations, to various protein strategies is definitely something that needs to be looked at a little bit more. But that's going to be further discussed later on in the PowerPoint. We can go ahead and move on to the key takeaways for practice and for, implicating it to daily lives. So the practical implications, for coaches and athletes, or for, personal trainers as myself, is to ensure that the clients or the athletes consume sufficient daily protein, right? So that's genuinely that 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight is, the sufficient total daily protein that is recommended to take. And so while timing may be a crucial factor for casual lifters, it's consuming protein within a few hours post-training is still good practice. The timing is not going to be as crucial for casual lifters, but it is recommended to still make sure that you consume some type of protein within a few hours post-training for that recovery, for maximizing that recovery. And that was basically what they recommended. For training multiple times a day or at elite levels, strategic timing might offer slight advantages. That's for those elite level athletes. The timing, that's when it comes into play, where it might play a significant difference. And so, encouraging consistent balanced meals with 20 to 40 grams of protein every 3 to 4 hours throughout the day, that's going to be that most famous part that I found in my research for that muscle hypertrophy. So basically, conclusion and future directions. In summary, protein timing does appear to play a role in muscle hypertrophy, but it may be secondary to total daily intake and protein quality. So total daily intake and protein quality definitely stand out or come first primarily to the muscle hypertrophy rather than the timing. And I thought that was very interesting, and I really appreciated the findings of that research. Again, further research, I think that they should explore long-term outcomes of athletes or just people in general performing these research studies. I think sex-specific responses are very important because the bodies are very different, female and male bodies. So that is very crucial. And individualized strategies for protein timing, that would be for those more elite level athletes. Coming up with individualized strategies for those protein timings would create a significant result in that research. So ultimately, a combination of adequate intake and proper distribution and training consistency remains key to maximizing muscle hypertrophy. So I added a quote to this research that I found very interesting, and it's definitely a quote from the Journal of Nutrition for Sports Nutrition. And I think that quote is very significant and it's part of my research, and it really changed the game whenever I was doing my research. So that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. I look forward to your feedback and any discussion you'd like to have on this topic. Please feel free to reach out or comment with your own thoughts on protein timing strategies. Thank you, and God bless.